Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into something ancient and holy and terrifying. A hill outside Jerusalem, a Roman execution, and a dying man who saw something no one else did. Forget what you think you know about the crucifixion. This isn't a sermon. It's the story of the thief beside Jesus. What he felt, what he feared, and what he saw the moment the world went dark. So, before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. You wake up to the sound of your own breath choking on blood. The taste of iron floods your mouth, thick and sharp like a knife swallowed in a dream. Your eyes are crusted shut. The skin of your back feels flayed, clinging to splinters, salt, sun. You try to move, but the pain is already moving for you, crawling from the base of your spine up to your neck, where it buzzes like hornets behind your skull. You're not lying down. You're not standing. You're hanging. The sun tells you what time it is, even if you can't. It hangs like a nail in the sky, and it is laughing at you. Your arms are stretched unnaturally, ripped from their sockets, nailed through the wrists to a beam that creaks every time your body weight shifts. And your body does shift, involuntarily, painfully, like a sack of ruined meat strung between two trees. The beam groans above you. The cross groans with you. The crowd doesn't. They're louder now. A chorus of mockery, dressed in dust and sandals. Their voices spit rocks. Their eyes sharpen like blades. You hear someone shout your name. Not kindly, not gently. Just loud enough to remind you they know what you did. That you deserve this. That you're not just dying. That you're supposed to be. A punishment. A warning. A spectacle. You try to swallow, but your throat is dust. Your tongue is swollen, split in one place where a soldier hit you earlier with the butt of his spear. It still throbs. Everything does. Your ribs feel like they're folding in on themselves. Your knees tremble beneath the weight of your own failure. You'd scream, but screaming requires breath. There's movement to your left. Someone else is hanging. You don't look at him at first. You're too busy trying not to pass out, but he's there. You can feel his presence like wind before a storm. The other thief, the one you vaguely remember from the prison pit. Maybe you spoke once, maybe you didn't, maybe you both knew it wouldn't matter. Nobody cares about names when you're hanging naked in front of a crowd. But he isn't looking at the crowd. He's looking at the man between you. The one with the thorns. The one with the sign nailed above his head. You squint through sweat and blood. The wood above him reads, King of the Jews, but there's no crown here, no gold, just thorns, blood, bruises blooming like violets on his ribs. His body looks like it was already buried and dug up again. But there's something else too. Something you can't name. He's not begging. He's not screaming. He's not even flinching when they throw things. He just breathes. Not calmly, but with purpose. His eyes are swollen, but not shut. They open just enough to see, and when they do, they see everything. You know that feeling you get when someone looks through you? This is not that. This is different. This is someone looking into you. Someone who knows. You can't remember the last time someone looked at you without fear or contempt. And yet, when his gaze lands on yours, there's no accusation, just silence. The kind of silence that feels older than sound. He's not judging you. He's not saving you either. He's just seeing you. And somehow that's worse. Or maybe better. Below, the guards are gambling, casting lots for a robe now soaked in blood. A woman weeps nearby, clutching something to her chest, her face torn in half by grief. Another man, cloaked and shaking, keeps his distance. A few others stand completely still, like statues waiting for a sign. You wonder who they are. Friends, followers, fools, and still the crowd howls. If you're really the Son of God, come down, someone yells, and others laugh. But the man in the middle doesn't move, doesn't answer. He just exhales slowly, like he's been holding something in his chest for too long. A sound slips from his lips, not a cry, more like a sigh shaped into a prayer. The thief on the other side of him begins to curse, loudly. He mocks him, joins the crowd, his voice cracked and defiant, screaming through blood and fury. "Aren't you the Messiah?" he spits. "Save yourself. Save us." The bitterness drips from his words like rot from old fruit. You want to join in. You want to be angry too. But something in you won't let you. You're tired of lying, tired of pretending, tired of dying with clenched fists and empty hands. You've fought your whole life, clawed for bread, for dignity, for breath. And now, here at the edge of everything, you're too exhausted to hate anymore. You turn your head, slowly, painfully. Your neck creaks like old rope, and you speak. Not loudly, not with bravado, just honestly. You don't fear God. You whisper to the other thief. Even now. He doesn't answer. The wind does, cold, rising. "We're getting what we deserve." You continue, your voice barely audible. But this man has done nothing wrong. The man in the middle doesn't move, but you can feel him listening, like a candle leaning toward breath. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to stop seeing your own shame. Then you open them again, and you say something you've never said before, not to a priest, not to a judge, not to a God, just to him. "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And then, silence. The wind stops. The crowd dulls. Everything narrows to a single heartbeat. And he turns. He looks at you, not through you, and he speaks. His voice is soft, but the world tilts beneath it. "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." You don't understand what that means. But suddenly, the nails don't matter as much. The pain doesn't matter as much, because someone saw you and spoke your name, like it was worth remembering. You've seen death before, felt its breath on your neck in alleyways and side streets, watched it crawl up the legs of starving men and settle in their lungs. You've seen nobles dragged through the mud, their rings ripped from swollen fingers. You've seen children beaten for bread. You've seen kings die too. Not on crosses, but in rooms full of incense and fear, wrapped in silk while choking on their own pride. They didn't die nobly. They whimpered, cursed, clawed at the air, called for gods they hadn't spoken to in decades. But this man doesn't curse. The guards spit at him. The crowd hurls insults like stones. One man throws a half-eaten date at his face. Another calls him a fraud. Still, he doesn't flinch. His mouth is cracked open, bleeding, barely able to close. But it's not shouting. He's not praying either. At least not the way people pray when they're begging to be saved. His ribs rise and fall like broken wings, trying to remember how to fly. There's a hole in his side, a real one. Not a scratch, not a wound, a hole. It glistens with something dark and sacred. You can't tell if it's fresh or ancient. You want to look away, but you can't. He turns his head, slowly, like it hurts, and looks at you. Not the way a judge does, not the way the guards did, not like you're dirt, not like you're damned. He doesn't look through you like everyone else always has. He just sees you. It's terrifying, because when someone sees you like that, there's nowhere to hide. Not behind your sin, not behind your smirk, not behind the hard shell you built after your father left and your brother died and you learned to take what wasn't given. You feel something shift, not in the sky, not in the wind, in you. You've spent your whole life being a mirror, reflecting whatever the world wanted to see. A threat, a joke, a thief, a shadow. Now, for the first time, there's no reflection. Only your face, your real face. The man in the middle, Jesus, they called him, doesn't say your name. But somehow, it's like he already knows it. He doesn't need to speak to accuse you. He doesn't need to speak to forgive you either. His eyes hold the kind of quiet that burns hotter than rage. And in that quiet, something begins to crack. Not loudly, not like glass, more like earth drying in the sun. Slowly, reluctantly. You remember things you tried to forget. The first time you stole, not for greed, but hunger. Your mother's face when she found out. The guard who beat you in front of your little sister. The time you lied in court to avoid the lash. The time you didn't lie, and they lashed you anyway. The way you started to believe you were the thing they said you were. Worthless, dangerous, lost. You remember laughing when a man begged you not to take his last coin. You remember not caring. You remember when you stopped trying to be good. And now, you're hanging next to someone who was good. Good in a way you didn't know existed. You thought holiness was robes and rules and people pointing fingers from temples. But this man's holiness bleeds. It breathes. It breaks and stays kind. You watch him inhale. Shallow. Strained. His body trembles like a door in a storm. And still, he's not thinking of himself. From the crowd, a soldier lifts a soaked sponge to his lips. He turns his face away. Someone nearby says he's refusing the wine because he wants to feel everything. Every nail. Every splinter. Every insult. You don't know why anyone would do that. Unless this isn't just dying. Unless it's something more. He looks up. Not toward you. Toward the sky. His voice is barely there. A whisper through blood. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. The crowd laughs again. Some snicker. Others start mocking the title above his head. King of the Jews. You look down at your own body. Filthy. Ripped. Shaking. The blood that drips from your feet is the last thing you'll ever give this world. And still, he looked at you. Like you mattered. Like something in you was still alive. You want to say something. Anything. But your throat is closing. Your lungs burn. So you just hold his gaze. And in that gaze, something falls away. The weight, the fear, the pretending. It doesn't make sense. You're still dying. The pain hasn't gone. The sky hasn't split. No angels. No voice from heaven. Just this man, broken, bleeding, looking at you like you've never been looked at before. And somehow that's enough. Enough to make you believe that maybe you weren't just born to steal and starve and suffer. Enough to make you believe that maybe, just maybe, love doesn't wait for you to deserve it. It finds you, on a hill, on a cross, in your last breath. It looks at you, not through you, and it doesn't turn away. The light starts to turn the wrong color, not gold, not white, but sickly, bruised, the kind of light that doesn't glow. It watches. The sky folds in on itself, like fabric being wrung out. Thick clouds crawl over the horizon, dragging their bellies low across the sun, swallowing it whole. And just like that, the heat vanishes. The wind dies, the crowd stills. Something ancient just opened its mouth. You feel it in your teeth before you hear it. That low hum. Not thunder. Not yet. More like the air, remembering how to tremble. The soldiers begin to shift their weight. They don't like this. They try not to show it, but their eyes betray them. One tightens his grip on his spear. Another mutters something about omens. You watch a third glance toward the temple, then away. Even the priests, who were so loud a moment ago, barking scripture and pointing fingers, have grown quiet. Their lips move, but not with certainty. There's nothing left to say when the sky itself starts arguing. You cough. It's dry, but something comes up anyway. Blood or bile. You're not sure. Your chest has stopped pretending to breathe. Every inhale now is a theft. Every exhale, a warning. You've known pain before, but this is different. This pain is not yours alone. It's shared, thick. It lives between you and the man in the middle. You try to look at him, but the sun's absence has turned everything strange. The light bends around his face like the world isn't sure if it should show him at all. That's when the raven comes. It lands on the top beam of his cross. Not yours, not the other man's, his. It doesn't caw, it doesn't move. It just stands there, still as a statue carved from shadow, watching the dying man like it knows something no one else does. You don't believe in signs. You stopped believing in signs around the time your younger brother died coughing in your arms. Around the time the temple guards laughed as they shoved your mother into the dust because she couldn't pay her debt. Around the time the last man who said God sees you used it as an excuse to take what he wanted. But now the signs won't stop. The wind shifts again. Not stronger, just colder. Like someone opened a door beneath the earth and left it ajar. The ground smells like copper and thunder. You think maybe this is what the end of the world feels like. Quiet, slow, personal. You can't take it anymore. The silence between you and him is heavier than the nails in your wrists. You turn your head again, slower this time, and look at him. He's not watching the sky. He's not watching the crowd. He's not watching the raven. He's watching you. You swallow back the fear. You try to clear your throat, but all that comes is a whisper. Jesus. His eyes don't blink. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. It hangs there, stupid, desperate, almost laughable. You don't even know what made you say it. It wasn't rehearsed. You hadn't planned some final redemption speech. You're not trying to be noble. You're just afraid. And you believed him. Somehow. Even now. Especially now. You didn't ask to be rescued. You didn't say, save me. You knew better. You'd already wasted every chance a man like you ever got. But maybe, just maybe, you could be remembered. Just not forgotten. His face doesn't change, but his mouth moves, slowly, and the words come out like they've been waiting since before the world began. Truly, I tell you, the voice is hoarse, wrecked, barely audible, but the words cut deeper than any blade. Today, you will be with me. Your breath catches. You're not sure you heard him right. In paradise. There it is. The most undeserved sentence ever spoken. No list of requirements. No punishment postponed. No confession extracted. Just today. With me. Paradise. Not a threat. Not a riddle. A promise. You stare at him like you've just been handed something precious with shaking hands. You don't know what paradise looks like. You don't know if it has gates or gardens or songs. You've never been the kind of man who got invited anywhere without stealing your way in. But now you don't have to steal. He's giving it to you. Not because you were good. Not because you changed. Not because you earned it. But because you asked. Around you, the world is unraveling. The ground trembles. The sky groans. Somewhere in the distance, the temple bell is ringing, even though no hand is touching it. The raven lifts off, not in fear, in reverence. And you close your eyes, not in death, in belief. It happens in a blink, not the kind that closes, the kind that takes everything with it. Your breath slips away without warning, not stolen, just let go. Your body doesn't jolt. There's no dramatic gasp, no thunderous collapse, just a quiet subtraction, as if something peeled your soul from your bones like dust from an old wall and said, "That's enough now." No trumpet, no chorus, no voice calling your name, just silence. But it's not empty. It's thick, like fog before a storm. It has weight, memory, shape. It presses into the corners of you, not to crush, but to hold. The crowd is gone. The cross is gone. The pain still echoes in your ribs, like a memory shouted down a well, but even that starts to fade. The first thing you notice is that there's no more blood in your mouth, no more rust on your tongue, no more splinters in your breath. Your arms don't hurt. In fact, you can't feel them at all, until you do. You're standing, but you never step down. Your feet are bare. They touch something soft, not dirt, not stone. It's the memory of ground. It feels like standing on the idea of home. The light here isn't yellow or white. It's not even light, really. It's presence. It doesn't shine. It recognizes. You're not being seen by it. You're being remembered by it. There's a breeze, but nothing moves. There's warmth, but no heat. And in front of you, ahead, but not far, is a veil. It isn't cloth. It's not a door. It's something in between, like a curtain made of all the moments you never understood. Thin, pulsing, alive. You don't walk toward it. It moves to meet you. You expect a voice, a gate, maybe a judge in gold with a list of your sins. You expect punishment, or at least a test. Something to explain how a thief ends up here. But nothing comes. Not yet. Just a feeling, deeper than words, that this place knows exactly who you are, and it doesn't flinch. You look down at your hands. They're clean, not scrubbed, just free. And then, behind you, a shadow. You turn, and he's there. Not bleeding anymore, not nailed, not crowned in thorns. He's standing, calm, steady, eyes soft. The man from the cross, Jesus. But he doesn't look like you remembered. Not different, just more complete. Like the version of himself the world could never fully hold. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. You know. You remember what he said. Today you will be with me in paradise. And now, you are. But it doesn't feel like arrival. It feels like waking up from a nightmare you didn't know you were dreaming. Like someone turned your soul right side out and handed it back. You breathe. For the first time without flinching. And he smiles. Not wide, not grand, just enough to tell you that the story didn't end on that hill. You want to fall to your knees, but your legs don't buckle. Not because you're proud, but because there's no weight anymore. Not even shame, because somehow it was carried by him. You don't ask questions. You don't need to. There's a kind of knowing here that melts the need for language. You don't remember every sin. You remember being forgiven. You don't remember the pain. You remember the moment someone chose to take it with you. And when he looks at you, you don't feel judged. You feel named. Not by what you did, not by what you failed to become, but by something older than that. By grace. The veil in front of you starts to dissolve. Not like smoke, but like a wall of tears being blinked away. Behind it, something begins to glow. But it's not a palace, not a city. It's recognition. It's belonging. And you realize something. Paradise isn't a place you enter. It's a person you follow. And he's already turning. You walk, not toward a reward, but toward the one who made you worthy of it. And though you died with your eyes open, now you finally see. You're standing, but there was no floor before. No ground, no weight, no body. You remember the cross, the ache in your ribs, the silence between your bones. You remember the blood drying in your mouth, the rasp of splinters in your spine, and then nothing. Not a fade, a snap, like a candle blown out. Now, this. You look down. Your feet are bare. They touch something like dust, but it doesn't cling. It doesn't rise or shift or stain. It's not sand, not soil. It's memory. The ground here is made of what came before. Steps you never took, pain you forgot you felt, faces you lost in the blur of your life. You can feel them. Every mistake, every moment. But they don't accuse you. They just hum. The air presses in around you. Not cold, not warm, just full. Like something is about to speak, but hasn't yet. A breath that's been held for centuries. You try to breathe it in, but it breathes you instead. It fills your chest without permission, like it knows what needs fixing before you ask. The light here isn't sunlight. It doesn't cast shadows. It doesn't come from above or behind. It pulses, like a heartbeat in the air. You can't tell where it begins or ends, but it watches, gently, relentlessly. And then you see it, in front of you. A doorway. Not wood, not stone. It's made of torn fabric, thick as a storm cloud, black as a wound, split down the center like something clawed its way through from the other side. And behind the tear, fire. Not flames, not heat, just fire. Like an idea trying to remember what it feels like to burn. It dances without consuming. It lives without smoke. You take a step forward. The dust doesn't scatter. It receives you. The air thickens just slightly, like it's considering whether you should be here. You don't blame it. You're not sure either. And then, movement. Someone, or something, shifts behind the veil of flame. Not walking, not floating, just there. You can't see it clearly, but you feel it like a second spine growing down your back. It's tall, but not towering. Wide, but not heavy. Its outline flickers in and out. A silhouette stitched from thunder. You should be afraid. But fear doesn't work here. Your old instincts, the ones that once kept you alive in alleys and back rooms, they've gone quiet, replaced by something deeper. Not peace, not awe, something older, like recognition. It speaks, but not in words. The air shifts around you. The dust stirs. Your bones remember languages they never knew. You don't hear it in your ears. You hear it inside you. You do not belong here. The phrase lands like a weight in your gut, but it doesn't feel cruel, just honest, like a fact read from a ledger. You open your mouth. Nothing comes. The figure steps closer, not toward you, into you, and suddenly your past spills out, not in scenes, in sensation. You feel the first time you stole, the rush and the shame tangled in your chest. You feel the laughter that died in your mother's mouth when the guards took your brother. You feel the hunger, the rage, the long nights pressed against cold stone with nothing but regret for warmth. You feel the cross beneath your back, the nails in your wrists. And then you feel him, the man in the middle. You feel his gaze, not just on you, but in you. You feel what it meant when he said, "With me." The flames behind the fabric twist. The tear widens, just slightly. The presence before you pauses. It speaks again, this time quieter. Why are you here? The question isn't for interrogation. It's for unveiling. And you answer without thinking. I was remembered. The words hang in the air. They don't echo. They settle. The figure doesn't move. But the air changes. It softens. The weight in your chest loosens, just a little. The flame dims. The fabric pulls back, not torn now, opened. And behind it, not paradise, not yet, But something just as terrifying, a long corridor made of silence. The kind of silence that listens back. You are not where you thought you were. You are not in heaven. You are not in hell. You are in the place between. The moment after death, but before arrival. And someone, has just decided you're not finished yet. You step forward, not because you're brave, but because you've already died. And whatever's waiting ahead, at least this time, you're not alone. The doorway doesn't close behind you. It vanishes, like it was never there at all. You don't feel yourself crossing a threshold. You feel yourself being absorbed. The corridor opens, not outward, but downward, and downward again. Each step you don't take leads you deeper. The air here is colder, heavier. The silence isn't empty. It watches you, holds you. The light fades from flame to something older, gray, thick, flickering like breath against a cold mirror. Then the chamber opens. You don't see it all at once. It reveals itself slowly, like it's deciding how much of itself you're allowed to witness. It's enormous, not in size, in presence. The walls curve like the inside of a bell. The floor is slick with dust that glows faintly when your feet touch it. There are no windows, no lanterns, only the steady pulse of red light seeping from above. And then you look up. Scrolls, thousands of them, maybe more, suspended in the air like hanged sentences. They don't dangle from cords or chains. They just float, slow and solemn, each one sealed in crimson wax. But the wax moves. It drips, slow, steady, onto the floor. Pools form at your feet. You lean closer. Expect the sharp scent of melted resin. But it isn't wax. It's blood. It has no heat, but it smells alive, thick, sacred. You don't ask where it comes from. You already know. Memories. Not written, not recorded, preserved. You feel them hum, each one singing a note only the soul can hear. Some weep, others burn. You catch glimpses, not faces, but moments. A hand letting go of another. A child lost in a crowd. A lie told without guilt. A prayer whispered in desperation and never answered. These aren't stories. They're imprints. History's raw skin pulled back. And then one scroll begins to unroll. Not slowly, not gently. It jerks forward like something inside it just woke up screaming. You don't choose it. It chooses you. It hovers in front of you, parchment ancient and pulsing, edges frayed like singed feathers. The seal cracks without touch. Blood spills down the sides, runs across the floor, and disappears into the dust like it's been here before. The scroll opens, and you see yourself, not as you thought you were, not even as you feared, but as you really were. There's no narrative, just a cascade of sight and sensation. Your first theft, not glorious, just clumsy. A loaf of bread clutched too hard, a shopkeeper's cry. Your hands shaking as you ran, breathless, ashamed, triumphant. Your mother's face when you returned home with bruised ribs and swollen lips, trying to hide the wound and the stolen crust at the same time. The way she looked at you, not angry, not surprised, just tired, as if she already knew you were becoming someone else. Then more. The man you hit too hard, the one who didn't get back up, the sound his body made when it landed, how you didn't check to see if he was breathing. You just ran. Again. You see it all, but this time you feel it, not as memory, as weight. But the scroll doesn't accuse you. It mourns you, and that's worse, because judgment you understand. But sorrow, real sorrow, the kind that bleeds for you, even as it reveals you, that undoes you. You want to look away, you try, but the scroll won't let you. It shows you the hunger that twisted your stomach so hard it made you hate the people who had full plates. It shows you the fear that turned into fists, the loneliness that sounded like laughter when you stole from strangers. It shows you the moment you gave up, not loudly, not in some act of rebellion, but quietly. One morning, in an alley, when you woke up cold and thought, "This is who I am now." And then, it pauses. The scroll stops unrolling. The air stills, and a single drop of blood falls from the scroll's edge. It hits your foot and burns. Not pain, not fire, truth. And the chamber listens, and the scroll closes. Not with violence, with reverence, as if even your story deserves to be held. It floats back into the shadows above, the blood on the floor already fading into memory. Another scroll stirs. You feel it watching, waiting, but it doesn't open. Because for now, one truth was enough. You exhale and realize you've been holding that breath since the cross. The chamber doesn't speak, but it knows. And now, so do you. The chamber opens again, but this time not into darkness, not into flame. This one opens into silence, so dense it feels padded, soft, like the inside of a dream. But it isn't yours. The dust here doesn't glow. It waits, like it already knows what you're about to see, like it's tired of carrying the weight of questions you never asked. There's no door, no archway, just a slow curling of space itself. The room reveals itself like a breath you didn't know you were holding. Long, round, echoless. And then the wall ahead begins to ripple. Not melt, not shake, just shift, like fabric pulled tight over a memory. You move forward. You don't mean to. But the ground beneath your feet slides gently toward the wall, as if it wants you to see something. And you do. A boy, no older than 10, dirt on his knees, a cut on his elbow. But his eyes are soft, not yet suspicious, not yet watching every shadow for betrayal. It's you, but it's not. This version of you is laughing, running. There's a dog, scruffy, loud, loyal, snapping at your heels. Your hands are full of bread, but this time, it isn't stolen. You're in a field. Someone's calling you. A woman. A voice worn smooth by song. You run toward it. She holds out her arms. You fall into them, then fade. Not violently, not tragically, just disappear. Like a match burning down to its final breath. Another ripple. Another version. You're older now, stronger, scarred. You walk differently. Wide, heavy, dangerous. Your hands are stained red. You're shouting at someone. A man is crying at your feet. You strike him. He doesn't get up. You don't care. You wipe the blood on your sleeve like it's nothing. Behind you, a fire burns. You lit it. This version of you doesn't just take. He destroys. He doesn't run from pain. He creates it. And then, fade. Again. Gone. Another ripple. Another you. And another. Each one different. One lives in the desert, quiet and alone, carving prayers into stone walls. One dies in prison, betrayed by a friend. One becomes a soldier. Another, a father. One starves. One thrives. One preaches. One kills. Each version rolls past you like waves. And with every one, a feeling. Not grief, not pride, just proximity. Like brushing past ghosts of yourself in a hallway you never built. Some of them look happy. Most do not. But all of them are possible. And then, a voice. Not behind you. Not above. Inside. Soft. Certain. Every soul holds 1,000 versions. You turn. There's no figure, no form, just the sense of being seen. Every choice opens a door. Every fear locks one shut. Every silence, every cry, every lie whispered into the dark creates a thread. The wall flickers again, not with faces, with echoes. You hear yourself screaming, laughing, whispering, praying, cursing, begging. You hear your own voice die 100 different ways. The voice speaks again. But I did not choose the one who got it right. The room leans in. I chose the one that called back. And just like that, you understand. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough. You weren't rescued because you were the best version. You weren't saved because you avoided failure. You didn't earn it by becoming the cleanest thread in the web. You were chosen because you turned. Even at the end, especially at the end, you asked. You meant it. And he heard you. The room exhales. The ripples slow. The air thins. And every version of you, the monster, the martyr, the coward, the saint, they all fade until there's only one left. You, the one who died beside him, the one who looked through the blood and the sky and the shame and whispered a sentence he never stopped waiting for. Remember me. And he did. Not the better you, not the worse. You. And here you are. Remembered. Chosen. Still standing. The corridor narrows. You don't notice it first. It doesn't close around you so much as press inward, like a pair of lungs deflating. The air grows cooler, dry. Not hostile, just reverent. The floor darkens beneath your feet, its color less a shade and more a memory, like stone scorched with time. You slow without meaning to. Your breath, quiet. Your steps, soft. There's something sacred here, and you can feel it before you understand it. Then the walls appear. At first, they look blank. Just smooth, gray bone, polished and silent, stretching in either direction like a mausoleum for thoughts unspoken. But as you draw closer, the details sharpen. Names. Not carved in stone, not inked on scrolls, etched into bone. Human. Ancient. The marrow long gone, but the stories still echoing. Each name is different. Some are small, written in tight, trembling strokes. Others are bold, wide, angry. Some have symbols beside them, tears, daggers, suns. Most are just names, and some are missing. You notice them like gaps in a smile, whole patches of wall where nothing remains but the faint scars of erased letters. You lean in, squinting at one. The grooves are almost invisible, like someone tried to forget them so thoroughly that even the bone stopped remembering. You walk, slowly. Some of the names leap out at you. A woman you once stole from. Her kindness stunned you more than the slap she gave. A boy you used to run with before he vanished down an alley and never came back. A man you saw praying alone behind a shutter, whispering words into dust. You don't know how their names are here, but you know why. Because no one else remembers them. The world moved on. History looked the other way. Even their children forgot. But heaven did not. You round a corner, and there he sits. The scribe. Old, small, blind. Eyes clouded white as snow, skin papered with time. He sits cross-legged on the floor, bones visible beneath his robe, fingers stained with something that looks like ink but smells like rust. He holds no lamp. He doesn't need one. His hands move slowly over the wall, fingertips reading the names like braille etched in grief. He speaks before you do. They are remembered here because no one else did. You pause. They were never written in books, never sung in psalms, never honored with tombs or statues. His hand finds an empty space in the wall. He sighs. They were erased, not by accident, by design, swallowed by empire, crushed by silence. You kneel beside him, Something compels you. Not guilt, not pity, just reverence. He turns his head toward you. Blind eyes, but they still feel like they're seeing too much. There is no such thing as a forgotten soul, he says, only misplaced echoes. He reaches for something, a long, thin chisel. He dips it into a pot beside him. Not ink, blood. He carves. Slow, deliberate. A name you don't know. One more echo given form. Then, his hand stops and rests on a name, faint, half faded. Yours. You weren't looking for it, but it finds you anyway. You stare at the thin lines, not proud, not bold, just there, scratched shallow, like whoever carved it wasn't sure it deserved to last. The scribe traces your name with his fingers. It was almost lost, he says, not because heaven forgot, but because you did. You want to ask what he means, but you already know. How many years did you spend pretending you didn't matter? How many nights did you curse your name, spit on it, bury it in the dirt of what you'd done? How many times did you whisper, "I am no one"? And believe it, you thought you were erasing yourself. But someone, was still carving, quietly, stubbornly, patient as eternity. You reach out. Your fingers touch your name. And for a moment, you remember every version of you that tried to disappear. But you didn't. Not completely. You died a thief. But your name lived. Not loud. Not proud. Just enough. The scribe smiles. Faintly. Names don't survive by volume, he says. They survive by being called back. You close your eyes. Not to forget. To listen. And somewhere, far off, you hear it. Your name. Spoken softly, but with joy. And you know, he's still saying it. The one who hung beside you. The one who promised you paradise. He hasn't stopped calling you. And he never will. You don't know when the hall ends. It doesn't stop. It simply dissolves. One step the walls are bone. The next their breath. The dust clears, but the air thickens. Not with fog, not with heat, but with presence. Something is here, not watching you, waiting for you. And then you see them. Not the way you imagined. No wings, no trumpets, no glowing robes. Just figures. Tall, silent, still. Each one wears a different form, not because they're disguising themselves, but because no single shape could hold them. They don't move. They reveal. And what they reveal first are scars. Some across their chests, some down their backs, some etched into their palms like brands. These are not the marks of failure. These are not the results of war. These are the proof of presence. Each one earned by standing where they didn't have to, bleeding when no one saw, choosing mercy when judgment would have been easier. They don't look at you. They look through you. And then one steps forward, a hand raised, not in greeting, in remembering. And the air around you shifts. It begins not with sound, but with weight. History, but not as the world remembers it. Not as battle dates or crowned kings or marble plaques worn thin by pilgrims. You're shown the backside of it, the part never written. Moments, small, hidden, the kind the earth forgets, but heaven does not. You see a beggar, curled in the cold outside a merchant's gate, forgotten, hollow, dying. A child passes, the only one who looks. She gives him half a crust of bread, old, hard, the only food she had. She smiles, then runs off before her father can see. That man lived 3 more days because of her. And in that time, he forgave someone who had ruined him. No one wrote that down. But here, It thunders. Another moment. A young boy, stoned by other children for being wrong. A woman stops them, doesn't scream, doesn't strike. She kneels, shields him with her own body. She doesn't even know his name. But years later, he would become the man who fed 50 orphans in a drought. Because of her. And then you see it. A hill. 3 crosses. A crowd. Blood on the dirt like spilled ink. The middleman. Already broken. Already fading. The man on the right. Angry. The man on the left. Afraid. You know this. You were this. And now, you see it from the other side. Not your body. Your soul. What it looked like when it asked to be remembered. What it sounded like. A whisper that didn't echo in the air, but in heaven. You see the ripple it made. You see the way the angels turned. Not because your voice was strong, but because it was true. You didn't ask for rescue. You didn't promise to change. You didn't barter. You just asked him not to forget. And that simple act cracked something open. You see him turn to you. You see what he saw. Not a criminal. Not a failure. A soul that called back. And that was enough. The vision fades. You're back among the angels. They don't speak. They don't need to. Their scars speak for them. You understand now. History is not what's written. It's what's carried. Not in stone, in spirit. And mercy is the ink. You feel something rise in your throat. Not shame, not pride. Gratitude. Not the kind you say with words. The kind that falls out of you when you realize you should have been forgotten, but weren't. The angels begin to move, one by one, back into shadow. Not disappearing, just retreating to the edges, where they always were. Watching, waiting, weeping, scarring. You're alone again, but never really alone. And as the silence closes around you, you remember something. He said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." And now you know why. Because mercy is not weakness. It is creation. And every act of it rewrites the world, even if no one else ever sees. It doesn't feel like flying. It feels like sinking upward, like rising through water that isn't wet, only full. Full of what you missed, full of what you gave up. There are no clouds, no stars, just a soft, living veil, a fabric woven from memory, stretched thin across the divide. You move through it without motion, not floating, drifting through time's exhale. Then the veil parts, and you see the earth, not spinning, not distant, just open. And through it, not images, memories, not yours, theirs. You see your mother. She's older now, bent slightly, but still strong. Her hair is thinner, her hands cracked from scrubbing. Not out of duty, out of habit. She still washes the same stone steps every morning, the same ones you used to track mud across as a boy. She doesn't speak of you, but every time someone asks how many children she had, she pauses, and you feel the pause like a blade. She still keeps your worn sandals by the door, still folds your tunic at the bottom of the chest, still waits, but never says it aloud. She doesn't know where you went. Not really. Only that one day, the Roman guards passed through the alleyway, and you didn't come back. You see your brother. You'd stopped speaking years before it happened. He said you were a coward. You said he was a puppet. Neither of you were wrong. He married, had 2 children. One's named after your father. Not you. But once, just once, he walked past the hill, the one with the 3 crosses. He didn't know you were there, didn't look up, didn't linger. But later that night, he sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling, and whispered your name, then wept into his hands. You see the guard, the one who struck you, the one whose spit hit your lip right before the hammer did. He was 23, a boy in armor too big for his soul. You hated him, but now you see what you couldn't then. The trembling hand, the way he turned his face when he nailed your feet down. He told himself it was just another order. But later, as he cleaned the blood from his fingers in a barrel behind the barracks, he vomited. He never told anyone why, not even when the rumors began, that the man in the middle might have been something more. You watch them, all of them, and none of them know what happened to you. They know you died. They might even say your name with a grim shake of the head, but they don't know the rest. They don't know what he said to you. Today, they don't know where you went. They don't know who remembered you when no one else would. But you know. And now you watch. Not like a ghost. Not like a spy. Like a soul no longer chained to the story others wrote for it. You see everything differently now. Not softer. Truer. You see that your mother never stopped loving you, even when she stopped saying your name. You see that your brother's anger wasn't betrayal. It was fear. You see that the guard who struck you was just another man trying to survive inside a system that taught him how to kill but not how to grieve. You see the people you hurt, and the ones who hurt you, and none of it makes you turn away. Because here, you're not looking for justice. You're looking for understanding. And slowly, you find it. You see the earth not as it is now, but as it could have been. You see every moment mercy was possible and wasn't chosen. And still, the light keeps reaching. You watch. And somehow, watching is enough. Not because it fixes the past, but because it tells you something no one ever told you before. You were never unseen. You were never lost. You were watched, even when your back was turned. You were known, even when you didn't know yourself. You were loved, even when you had nothing left to offer. And now you're here, on the other side of the veil, looking back, with eyes wide open. You feel it before you hear it, like pressure behind your ribs, like thunder holding its breath. The light dims, not into darkness, but into memory. The sky folds in on itself, not collapsing, gathering. You're not standing anymore. You're being held, suspended inside something vast, something ancient, something that's been watching you since your first breath. And then it begins. Voices. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Some crackle like fire, some roll like rivers, some tremble with cold fury, others sing like flutes in mourning. They are speaking your name, not as comfort, as evidence. You hear it again and again. Your name, sharpened, shouted, carved into sound like a warning. He betrayed, he mocked, he stole, he was given chances, he spat on them. Each voice slices through you like wind through torn cloth. You want to cover your ears, but you have no hands here. You are not a body in this place. You are a count. Every failure is spoken aloud like scripture. Every secret thought. Every curse. Every night you laughed at the pain you caused. Every morning you promised to change, and didn't. You want to disappear, but that, too, is a luxury. And then, another voice. Soft, but unshaken. Mercy, it says. It doesn't shout. It states. Another joins it. Mercy. Then another. He turned back. And suddenly, there's a split. The sky above you flashes, not with lightning, but with division. Some angels burn with righteousness. You can feel it, white hot and unrelenting. Not cruel, but absolute. They say justice must hold, that the balance cannot be tilted by sentiment, that choosing mercy for you weakens it, for everyone. And part of you agrees. You never earned your place. You never paid it back. You didn't even live long enough to prove you meant your final words. You just asked. And even that felt small. Then the others speak. Not with fire, with ache. They name you as one of them. Not because you were holy, but because you wanted to be. Because you stopped running. Because you saw him. Because you believed him. They don't defend your record. They defend your turning. And for a while, the voices war. Not with blades, with verdicts. Echoes clashing like tides. Justice, mercy, law, grace. And your name, over and over, pass between them like a stone, too hot to hold. You feel it inside you, the split. You don't know where this will land. And then he speaks, not with thunder, not above them, through them. The man from the middle cross. His voice doesn't rise. It settles. Like morning mist over a battlefield. He speaks your name, not as evidence, as promise, not as plea, as fact. He is mine, and everything else stops. The arguing ceases, the heat cools, the wind dies down. The angels fall silent, not defeated, stilled. Not because they changed their minds, because he overruled them with something older than justice. Love, the kind that knows the law and chooses to step beneath it. You float in the silence that follows. You don't cheer, you don't cry, you just breathe. If that's even what this is, you are not excused. You are named, and the name holds. Not because you are clean, but because he said it. And once he says a name, it doesn't get unspoken. Not in this world, not in the next. You remember the moment on the cross. Your legs were trembling, your vision spotted, your mouth tasted like metal and dust. You didn't know what you were asking. You just didn't want to vanish alone. And he didn't ask you to prove anything. He just said, "Today you will be with me." And now you know what that meant. It meant that when the voices rose, he would speak for you. When angels argued, he would not. He would claim. And that would be the end of it. The sky settles. Your name is quiet now. No longer a question. Just true. The air tastes like memory. Not sweet, not bitter, just familiar. As if the wind itself once passed through your lungs when you were still alive. You open your eyes, if you still have eyes here, and find yourself in a garden. But not a garden you recognize. This place doesn't obey the laws of creation. The ground is soft, but you're not standing on it. You're held by it. The trees are brittle, blackened by something ancient, something sacred. They look dead until you touch one. And when you do, just with a fingertip, it blooms. Not with flowers, with light, pale and trembling, like it's remembering how to live. Each petal flickers, then steadies. Each branch curls toward you, not in hunger, but in reverence. You move forward, the trees lean away, then blossom behind you. Your footsteps don't echo, they whisper. You're being watched, not judged, not tested, witnessed. You pass a stream. The water flows backward, not in defiance, in return. Every ripple unhappens, drawing leaves back to branches, tears back to eyes. Birdsong rises overhead, not as melody, but as undoing. You hear the notes in reverse, a song being rewound. Not just music, time. You touch your chest, and something slides off. A weight you didn't know you still carried. Not flesh, not guilt, something older. Shame, maybe. It peels from you, like bark from a tree. And where it falls, the ground absorbs it. Not like dirt, like memory forgiving itself. You keep walking. The garden deepens. And for a moment, you think, this is it. This is paradise. But then you hear it. A voice. Not ahead. Not behind. Within. You're not done. The words are gentle, but firm. You stop. You hadn't realized you were hoping you were finished. That this was the end. That the pain and the pleading and the ache of becoming could stop now. But it can't. Not yet. You are not in heaven. You are in the between. The place between places. Where souls come to witness what can't be seen from either side. There is something you must see. And the garden is just the veil. A figure appears, not ahead, beside. You don't know how long he's been walking with you. He doesn't introduce himself. He doesn't need to. He's not a guide. He's a keeper. Of what? You're not sure. But his robe is torn near the hem. His hands are stained. Not with blood, with ink. He gestures. And the garden parts. Not like a curtain, like a wound. And through it, not heaven, not hell. Memory, but not yours. Theirs. All the ones you wronged. All the ones who wronged you. Their faces rise from the mist, like oil from water. Not solid, not ghostly, just honest. You see the woman you lied to. The man you betrayed. The child you frightened when you grabbed the bread first. You see their wounds. And worse, you see who they became after you passed through their lives. Not because of you, but not entirely without you either. You want to look away, but this place doesn't allow it, because seeing is part of the gift. You see where the thread was cut, and where it was tied again. You see your ripple, and how it faded, and how it returned. You see forgiveness. Not always right away, not always at all, but you see the chance for it. In every look, every choice, every quiet hour, when someone almost remembered that you were human. And still, the garden blooms behind you. Because even here, in this in-between, life is still choosing you. You turn to the keeper. He does not speak, but his eyes tell you the truth. This place is not punishment. It is preparation. You can't carry heaven with hands full of shadows. You have to set them down. And not just the ones others gave you. The ones you grip so tightly you forgot they weren't part of your skin. You unclench, slowly, and the light around you breathes. Not brighter, just closer, like it's been waiting. You look down at your feet. The ground no longer stirs. Because the path is almost ready, not for escape, for arrival. And behind you, a single tree blooms again. The path narrows, not from stone or walls, but from silence. It tightens around your breath like rope drawn slow across the chest. The trees behind you fade, their branches no longer blooming, no longer dying, just still. Then the hush breaks, not with sound, but with stillness, too perfect to be natural. Ahead, a circle of water, shallow, silent, not rippling, not reflecting, just waiting. No frame, no edge, just a pool suspended in nothing. You step forward. Something inside you pulls back, like a child who knows what happens when truth is shown too clearly. But you don't stop. You kneel beside the water, and when you look down, it doesn't show your face. It shows theirs, the ones who sat on the other side of your actions. First, a boy, dirt on his cheeks. You don't remember his name, only that he caught you stealing once, and you threatened him to keep him silent. You said you'd find him in the dark if he told. He didn't. But he never walked the same road again. He looks up now. He sees you. There's no hatred in his eyes, just distance, as if he grew around the wound, not through it. He doesn't smile. He just blinks and fades. Next, a woman. Her shawl pulled close, her mouth bruised, her silence heavier than your memory of her. You only took what she had in her purse. A few coins, a crust of bread. But the way she trembled, you told yourself it was the weather. She's crying now. Not from fear, from remembering. She doesn't forgive you. Not here. Not yet. But she doesn't spit, doesn't scream. She just watches and allows herself to be seen. And that is its own kind of mercy. You want the mirror to break. You want the water to cloud. But it doesn't. It stays clear. Another face appears. This one laughs. A man you ran with in your worst years. You stole together, lied together, watched one another rot. He doesn't blame you. He loved you like a brother. But he's dead now. You left him bleeding in an alley after a job went wrong. He looks up and grins. He forgives you. It's not joyful. It's just done. Like it was always going to be that way. You begin to breathe heavier. Each face that appears is a door that never fully closed. The ones you lied to, the ones you failed, the ones you forgot. And not all of them are strangers. Your brother, you see him next. Not as he was, as he might have been. Had you answered that letter? Had you swallowed your pride? Had you said, "I'm sorry," before it was too late? He looks up at you, but not with anger. He's waiting. For what? You're not sure. The mirror still holds. And finally, your mother. She doesn't speak. Her hands are in her lap, fingers curled around something unseen. She nods, once, as if to say, "You came home, even if I never saw it." You're crying now, but the mirror doesn't ripple, not even a tremble. Because this isn't water. It only looks like water. This is memory with no filter. This is truth without permission. This is the mirror that cannot be tricked. And yet, you don't look away. You stay. You let them see you. You let yourself see you. Not the version you rehearsed. Not the one they whispered about after your body went cold. Just you, unarmed. And for the first time since you were nailed to that wood, you feel light. Not weightless. Light. Because this isn't about guilt anymore. It's about account. About the final inventory of a life, and the quiet reckoning that comes not from punishment, but from being known. Some forgive you. Some don't. Some are still deciding. But none of them turn away. And neither do you. You stay until the mirror stills. Until every face is past. Until you are alone again, staring into the clear surface. And finally, it reflects. It's you, older. Not in body, in soul. Not polished, not perfect, but intact. The keeper returns. He doesn't speak, but the garden behind you breathes again. A leaf falls, hits the pool, and vanishes without a sound. You rise, not clean, but ready. He walks toward you as if the garden were his, not like he owns it, like it was planted just for this, just for now. No crown, no blood, no robe of shame or thorns or empire. Just a man, barefoot, solid, with the kind of calm that doesn't need to be announced. You expect fanfare. You expect some celestial unveiling. Wings, thunder, the shatter of old laws collapsing. But it doesn't come. He doesn't command the air to still. He doesn't raise his hand to summon fire or fold the stars into symbols. He just walks. And when he stands before you, he doesn't speak your name. He lets you breathe it. Because somehow, you already know, this is not just a man you met on a hill. This is the center of all your collapsing and the root of your rescue. He sits down beside you, Knees to soil, no throne, no spectacle, just presence. And waits. You glance at him, then away, like a child who knows they're loved but doesn't know how to deserve it. His nearness feels heavier than the cross, not crushing, revealing. You try to speak. Nothing comes. You think maybe he'll say something first. A parable, a verse, a challenge, a blessing. But he doesn't. He's silent. Not because he lacks the words, because you still have some that haven't been said. So you try again. You fumble out half sentences, apologies, confessions, explanations, the pieces of a man that died on wood, but hasn't yet figured out how to live in light. I thought I was too late, you say. His eyes flick toward you. I thought I'd have to earn it. Still, no rebuke, no holy correction, just that look, like he's seeing the version of you that never made it to earth, the one hidden under every mistake, every theft, every breath wasted on survival. You press your palms into the dirt. It's soft, gentle, almost listening. I didn't know what I was asking, you whisper. Now his mouth moves, not with words, with something quieter, a kind of grace that hums beneath language. But then he speaks. And it's not thunder, it's not command, it's not even comfort. It's recognition. I did. 3 words. And they strike deeper than any sermon ever could. Because you realize it. On that hill, when your lungs were closing and your knees buckled and your shame was loud and raw and choking, you weren't just crying out to be remembered. You were asking to belong. Not to a place, not to a reward, to a person, to him. And he said yes. Not because of your record, not because of your desperation, because he wanted to. You look at his hands. There are no nails now, but something in the skin still remembers. You ask without asking, why me? And his eyes answer, because you asked. You could fall apart right there, because all your life, you thought God came for the clean, the righteous, the ones with enough good to outweigh the weight of their sins. But this is different. He didn't come to weigh your life. He came to enter it. Not the polished version, the wrecked one. And now here he is, not standing above you, sitting beside you, not throwing lightning, waiting. You think maybe he's waiting for a prayer, a decision, an action, something formal. But no, he's just waiting for you to believe it, that this is real, that the man on the middle cross meant what he said, that with me wasn't poetic, it was literal. You feel the garden begin to pulse again, like breath, or memory, or time folding in. You realize he never left you. Not on the cross, not in the darkness, not in the mirror, not in the place between places. You were never alone in the waiting. You were just being prepared. The man beside you doesn't change form. He doesn't glow or rise or burn. He just remains. And in that stillness, something shifts. You no longer feel like a thief. You no longer feel like a mistake that was mercied out of pity. You feel named, not just as the one who was saved, as the one who was wanted. He places a hand on the ground beside you, the same ground that bloomed when you touched it, the same ground that remembered your shame and let it go. And when he stands again, he doesn't beckon you. He doesn't tell you to follow. He simply says, "You're ready," then walks away. And this time, you rise without fear. It's not what you expected. Not a grand moment. Not a collapse or a conversion or a miracle with a soundtrack behind it. No chorus of angels. No light splitting the sky like a sword. No trembling altar. No kneeling in tears. It's a blink. A moment so small, you would have never noticed it if he hadn't stopped time to show it to you. You're standing beside him again, the man from the middle cross, but not in the garden now, not in the waiting place. You're somewhere else, between breath and breath, a room made of memory. No walls, no floor, just a space suspended in stillness, filled with colorless air and hush. You know it's memory because it smells like sweat and dust, the smell of the world before you died. And he gestures to the air in front of you. It moves, and there you are, again. Not nailed, not weeping, not whispering a desperate plea to be remembered. You're just walking through a narrow alleyway between stone houses. Your feet are sore. Your back itches where a boil has started to form. You're hungry. You've just taken something that doesn't belong to you. A coin pouch. 3 denarii. You'll spend 2 on wine and 1 on forgetting. That's how it always goes. It was just another day in the long chain of days where nothing ever changed. Not inside you, not around you. You believed in nothing, trusted no one. You had already decided long ago that you weren't the type of man who gets remembered, only endured. And yet, in that exact frame of time, that blink, you slowed. Just a little. Right after you pocketed the coins. Right before you turned down the hill toward the market. You looked over your shoulder, not because you were checking for guards, but because you heard something. Not sound, not a voice, something else. It wasn't outside you. It was in you. Small, weightless, gentle, and it said, "You don't have to do this again." That was all. Not a warning, not a judgment, just an offering. It didn't demand. It didn't threaten. It didn't promise anything if you obeyed. It simply waited. And in that moment, that half second between compulsion and choice, you almost said no. No to mercy, no to return, no to the strange softness blooming in your gut that you didn't have language for. You almost rolled your eyes, spat on the ground, and went on, like you always did. But you didn't. You hesitated. That was all. Not an apology. Not a vow. Just hesitation. A flicker of will. And that was the moment. That's what he's showing you. That was the choosing. You think back to all the times you were told salvation came through sacrifice, through temple laws, through perfection, through pages and pages of unbreakable rules. But here now, you're watching it unfold from the other side, and it's none of those things. It was a blink, a pause, a space inside you that didn't slam shut. You weren't clean, you weren't kind, you weren't even looking for redemption. But when it brushed past you, silent, invisible, you didn't swat it away. You let it stay, even if just for a moment. And heaven saw that. He saw that. And from that flicker, he traced a line, a single golden thread, through the blood and the bruises and the betrayal, all the way up that hill, all the way to the cross, all the way to that gasp where you said, "Remember me." He turns to you now. His face is soft. The lines around his eyes are deep, not from age, from knowing. You whisper, "That's all it took?" He doesn't nod. He doesn't have to. You feel it. In your marrow. You think of how many people never even notice the moment. They think their sins are too loud, too many. They wait for a spotlight to shine down or for thunder to shake the ground. But it's not like that. It's never been like that. It's quieter. You ask, what would have happened if I didn't pause? He says nothing, but the image fades. And you already know. Not punishment, just distance. Just one more day buried under yourself. One more echo of almost, but you didn't say no. And that was enough. Not to make you good, but to make you reachable. And he reached. The choosing wasn't a ceremony. It wasn't written into the sky. It was him, seeing you. Pause. and saying, "That's enough." That blink, that sacred hesitation, was the open door. And he never needed more than that. You ask the question before you realize your mouth has formed the words. What about him? He knows who you mean. Of course he does. The other man. The one on the third cross. You hadn't looked at him when the nails went in. You were too busy drowning in your own pain. But you heard him. You remember the sharpness in his voice. Not fear, not sorrow. Spite. He had cursed the sky, spit at the crowd, laughed at the man between you, like he was nothing but another failed prophet choking on his own blood. And in that moment, he sounded so certain, like he knew what the world was and what it wasn't. You didn't blame him. You even agreed, for a while. But now, standing here, with him beside you, with the garden still breathing its strange rhythm behind you, you find yourself asking something you never thought you'd care to ask. Is there still time for him? You wait for an answer, wait for a smile, or a no, or a verse, or a sigh, but he doesn't respond. Not at first. Instead, the world around you darkens, not with fear, with memory. The colors don't vanish. They dim, as though someone has pulled a veil over the air. And suddenly, you're back, not on the cross, but at its feet, watching. The other thief is there, writhing, bleeding, his face twisted in defiance. He's not dead yet, and neither are you. You see it now, frozen in time, the last moment before his final breath. His chest rising in shallow spasms, his mouth open, mid-curse, the crowd jeering, a fly buzzing near his eye. You had looked away from him before, but now you look, and you see something you hadn't seen then. Fear, not the kind that makes a man tremble, the kind that builds a fortress around him. He had cursed, yes, but behind it was something hollow, something abandoned. A voice that had shouted for years and never gotten an answer. He wasn't mocking to hurt. He was mocking to protect himself. Because hope was more terrifying than hell. You feel it in your chest now. That old ache. The one you carried your whole life. The one he still clutched with both hands. But then time moves forward again. And he dies. Without turning. Without asking. Without even a flicker of surrender. And you wonder, truly wonder, if that's the end of it. You turn to him. You ask again, this time softer. Is it too late? His eyes don't leave the vision. He watches the other man breathe his last, watches his head fall, watches the stillness arrive like a thief of its own. Then he speaks. I don't measure time the way you do. It doesn't answer the question. And yet, it does. Because what you see next isn't what you expected. The scene shifts. Now, the other thief is standing somewhere else, somewhere gray and endless. No fire, no smoke, just silence. He looks around, confused, alone. There are no guards, no chains, no judgment throne. Just a long corridor that seems to lead nowhere. He calls out. No one answers. And then he hears something faint, familiar, a voice. Not yours, not his own, his. The same voice that said, today you will be with me, but not directed at him. Still, it echoes. The thief stumbles forward, the silence thickens, and still, the echo remains. He doesn't understand it. But something inside him begins to stir. Not faith, not repentance. Curiosity. He keeps walking, not because he believes, but because something in him refuses to stop. Something cracked open by the moment he refused to see. You realize he's chasing the echo, and heaven is letting him. You ask, will he find it? The answer comes slowly, like a tide returning. That's up to him. You blink. Not because you're surprised, but because you understand. Even now, even here, he's not locked out. The door was never slammed shut. He just didn't reach for it. Not yet. But maybe. Someday. Because the choosing isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with weeping and angels and a final breath filled with desperation. Sometimes it's later. Sometimes it's after the silence, after the mocking, after the defiance has nothing left to cling to. You look at him again. His face is unreadable, not because he's hiding something, because he sees more than you ever could. You whisper, "Do you still want him?" And this time, he answers without pause, "I always did." You close your eyes, because something in that answer breaks you open in a new way. You had always thought grace was something given to the clean, something handed out at the gates, after a life of trying hard enough. But here, in this place beyond the cross, it's different. It's not a prize. It's a presence. Always offered. Always waiting. Even for the ones who die cursing the sky. Even for the ones who didn't look. Even for the ones like him. Because maybe, just maybe, he will. You're led through a corridor with no walls. Just shadow. Just memory. The floor feels like breath under your feet. Soft. Unsteady. Alive. Each step forward doesn't echo. It listens. And still, he walks beside you. Quiet. Not leading. Not following. Just with you. As if this path was never meant to be traveled alone. Ahead, a faint glow. Dim, flickering, like candlelight buried beneath 1,000 years of dust. You think it might be a room, but it doesn't have edges. It doesn't hold shape. It simply receives. When you cross the threshold, something inside your chest draws still. Not fear. Reverence. The air is thick here. Not with smoke, but with the memory of smoke. Every breath you take feels like you're inhaling stories. Not yours. Theirs. The ones who came before. You see them. Not clearly, but present. Shapes seated on invisible thrones. Heads bowed. Hands folded. Some trembling. Some radiant. They wear crowns, but not of gold. Not of laurel or iron or gemstone. They wear crowns of smoke. Thin, weightless, ever-shifting circles that drift above their heads like breath after prayer. You expect them to vanish, but they don't. They pulse. They move. They remember. And every wisp carries a face. A child they fed when no one watched. A wound they forgave in secret. A grief they carried without making it someone else's burden. Each act, a thread in the crown. Each soul they touched, a flame feeding the smoke. You want to weep, not from sadness, from awe. Because these aren't the saints carved into temple walls or stitched into priestly robes. These are the forgotten ones, the unwanted, the ones who never preached a sermon or led a crowd but still lived mercy. He turns to you. You're not ready, because you already know what's coming. A crown. Yours. He lifts his hand. There's no ceremony, no trumpet, just a silence deep enough to hold eternity in it. And then you see it. Thin. Smaller than the others. Frail. Only 3 wisps. The first is your brother. The night he caught you stealing from your dying father's chest, and you didn't hit him. You could have. You wanted to, but you didn't. You dropped the coin, walked away, said nothing. That night, he didn't speak to you. But years later, he said it saved him. The second is the woman you lied to. The one you left broken, with promises you never meant to keep. But before you disappeared, you whispered an apology. Not because you thought it would fix anything, but because you meant it. She never answered. But you never lied to anyone again. And the third is him. That moment on the cross, when you turned your face, not away, but toward, not asking for escape, not bargaining, just whispering, "Remember me." 3 wisps, 3 mercies. That's all. You look down in shame. Compared to the others, your crown feels like smoke from a match. Barely there, a flicker, nothing worth placing on any head. But he sees it, and he smiles, not out of pity, out of truth. He lifts the crown in both hands, like it's sacred, and in that moment, it is. He doesn't place it on your head like a king. He lowers it with the gentleness of a friend, as if your soul might break under the weight of being seen. You brace for the crown to disappear the moment it touches you, but it doesn't. It stays, and somehow you feel it. Not heavy, whole. He steps back. You want to speak, but you can't, because there's something about smoke that feels more eternal than gold. Gold hardens, it boasts, but smoke lingers. It dances long after the fire has gone out. It carries scent, memory, echo, and now you understand. You weren't crowned for what you built. You were crowned for what you bore, for what you forgave in silence, for what you let go without applause. He finally speaks. Even smoke reaches heaven. It breaks you, not into sorrow, into release. Because all this time, you thought glory belonged to the loud, the shining, the certain. But here, in this room of almost nobodies, glory is made of moments no one saw, and crowns are made of what burns without being consumed. You touch the smoke above your head. It doesn't move away. It wraps around your fingers, warms your skin, and for the first time, you realize it's not just a reward. It's a reminder that even the smallest kindness endures. He steps beside you again, and as you turn to leave the room, your smoke crown trails behind you like a slow breath. Still there, still real, still rising. You sit in the hush. No angels, no golden gates, no streets paved with anything. Just wind and breath and stillness that doesn't ache. You don't know how long you've been here. There's no sun to measure by, no ticking pulse of time. But the longer you sit, the more you realize this place isn't asking anything of you. Not your name, not your story, not your proof of change. It just is. And you just are. It should feel strange, but it doesn't. Because for the first time in your life, you are not waiting to be punished. You are not waiting to be forgotten. You are not waiting at all. You are received. The silence here is not empty. It's full, thicker than sound, softer than song. It doesn't press in. It opens out, like a slow inhale held in the palm of something older than the sky. You lie back. The ground is warm, or maybe your body is. You can't tell anymore. There's no sharp edge to this moment. No tension, just weightlessness. The kind that doesn't lift you, but returns you to yourself. Somewhere nearby, a breeze stirs. It doesn't come from above or below. It doesn't move like weather. It moves like breath. Gentle, patient, as if the whole universe is exhaling around you. Then, a voice. Not a blast, not a sermon. Just a whisper that sounds like it's always been part of your bloodstream. You don't have to fight anymore. And your chest crumples. Not in pain, in relief. Because suddenly, you feel how long you've been fighting. How many fists you've curled. How many nights you kept one eye open. How many smiles you faked just to stay alive. How many names you wore like masks, because the world didn't care to know the real one. You tried to survive punishment before it ever arrived. Tried to prepay your debts in shame. You don't even remember when the fight started, but you know it never stopped. Until now. You let the whisper sink into the cracks. The ones you tried to patch with pride, with fear, with noise. And the silence keeps holding you. Not because you're fragile, because you're finally safe enough to fall apart. You turn your face toward nothing, toward everything. The air tastes like memory, but not the kind that haunts, the kind that hums, that remembers for you, that knows what you couldn't carry and never asked you to. You don't understand all of it. You don't need to, because understanding was always your shield, and now you don't need a shield. You trust the ground. You trust the hush. You trust the voice that doesn't rush you to change. You begin to cry, but it doesn't feel like regret. It feels like a river finally finding its bed. No one is watching, and if they are crying too, because there is a holiness in rest, not the kind earned by labor, the kind given by grace. You see something then, not with your eyes, but with your knowing. All those years you thought no one heard. He heard. Not the prayers you spoke out loud, the ones you didn't even know you were whispering when you held back a cruel word, when you walked away from revenge, when you reached for something gentler, even while bleeding. Those moments weren't small. They were seeds. And here, in this stillness, they've bloomed, not into glory, into peace. You sit up, not because you're called to, because you want to, because you can. And for the first time, your body doesn't carry the memory of chains. Your hands aren't clenched. Your shoulders don't sag with some invisible weight. You're not being watched. You're being known. And the knowing is so quiet, it feels like a lullaby. The voice returns. But this time, it doesn't say anything new. Just repeats, like a rhythm older than your heartbeat. You don't have to fight anymore. You close your eyes, not to leave, but to stay. And for the first time since your first breath back on earth, you believe it. You turn, not forward, not back, but inward and beside. And you see him again, not in fire, not in robes, not crowned with thunder, but just as he was, on that hill, on that wood, between two thieves, bleeding into a sky too proud to weep. And suddenly, you're there again, not as memory, but as presence. The wind is dry, the crowd restless, dust coats your tongue, your wrists scream, your ribs tremble, and he is still beside you. You had turned to him once, asked for something you didn't dare name. Remember me. And he answered with something far more dangerous. Today, you will be with me. At the time, you thought he meant later. After the pain, after the blood, after the veil. You thought it was a promise for some distant heaven, some golden after. But now, standing in the quiet between breath and eternity, you understand. He didn't mean later. He meant now. Here, this moment, this stillness, this closeness. You hadn't seen it then. Too much pain, too much shame. You looked at him and saw only another dying man, just as broken as you. But now you see what no one else saw. You see what they all missed. The priests with their scrolls, the soldiers with their spears, the crowd with their curses, even the sky with its blindness. You see, why? He wasn't just dying for you. He was dying with you. Not just to save your soul, but to sit in your suffering, to carry the rot, the spit, the silence, the filth, the fear, to hang in the same heat, to taste the same thirst, to die the same kind of death, so that even your worst hour would not be alone. He never looked away from you. Not then, not now. And when he said, "You will be with me," It wasn't a bargain. It wasn't a bribe. It was recognition. He saw you, the real you, the one buried under failure and fists and hunger and theft and guilt. And he said, even you, especially you, you fall to your knees, not out of worship, not yet, out of understanding, because you finally know what no one else did. That man in the center didn't just die between two criminals. He chose to. He wasn't caught. He wasn't trapped. He stepped into it, walked toward it, let the nails find him so that you could finally stop running. This wasn't mercy handed down from a throne. It was mercy nailed to one. He didn't say, "You will be with me," because he was leaving. He said it because he was staying with you. In the breaking, in the bleeding, in the hour everyone forgot. And somehow, that makes all the difference. You look into his eyes now, and they don't burn. They hold. They cradle. He has nothing left to prove. No fire in his hands, no scrolls to read, just presence. And that's what no one saw. Not the guards, not the priests, not even the other thief, whose curses were just smoke trying to hide a dying flame. But you see it. He was not a man crushed by Rome. He was a door. And the cross wasn't a punishment. It was an invitation. He let death take him so he could take you somewhere death couldn't follow. And when he whispered that promise, he wasn't pointing ahead. He was pointing here, to this moment, to this peace, to this silence that holds your name like a thread that was never broken. He smiles, not with lips, not with skin, with being. And you realize you're not waiting to be judged. You're not waiting for a crown. You're not waiting for the scales to tip, because everything that had to be done was done. On that hill, on that beam, on that middle cross, you had spent your life running from shame, and he had spent his final breath making sure it couldn't follow you here. You reach for him, not because you must, because you can. And when your fingers brush his, there's no fear. Just return, like you were always meant to find him here. And maybe that's what grace really is. Not being pulled from the fire, but waking up to find that someone sat in the fire with you until the heat turned into light, and the light into home. Light pours through your eyelids before you open them. It doesn't sting, it doesn't blind, it warms. It seeps into you slowly, like sunrise through old stone, like a memory returning after lifetimes of silence. You don't jolt awake, you rise, gently, as if the universe has been holding its breath for this very moment. And now, finally, exhales. You are standing, not floating, not dreaming, standing. And beneath your feet, something real, but not earth, not wood, not stone. It feels like memory. Like every time you stood up when you didn't think you could. Every time you were knocked down and chose to get up anyway. It feels like all the standing you did in secret when no one saw. And now, it holds you. There are voices in the distance. You can't name them. You've never heard them before, but they call your name like a song. Not a shout from a crowd, but a melody from home. You listen, and it changes you, because this is the first time your name hasn't sounded like a sentence, not a command, not a curse, not a file being opened or a story being recited. Your name is sung, like it means something, and you believe it. You take a step, not out of duty, out of joy. You walk, not toward a gate or a throne or a choir. You walk into being known, and as you move, something washes off you. Not guilt. That was already gone. Not shame. That never belonged to you. It's the last dust of fear, that silent fear you carried your whole life like a second skin, that maybe you didn't belong anywhere, that maybe what you did was too much, that maybe your final breath was too late. But here, there is no too much. There is no too late. There is only answered. You feel it echo inside you. You are not lost. You are not condemned. You are not forgotten. You are the thief who asked and was answered. And the answer wasn't a doctrine or a law or a bargain. It was a person. It was him. You remember the way he looked at you, not past you, not through you, but into you. And you realize now that look never left. Even when your eyes closed, even when the pain took you, even when silence fell, he was still looking, still holding, still walking beside your soul through the dark. You pass beneath something now, not a gate, not an arch. It's more like a veil being lifted, like stepping out from behind your own shadow. And what's on the other side isn't a kingdom, or a temple, or a judgment seat. It's a garden, but not the kind with vines and soil and bees. This garden grows with stories, with reconciled names and healed wounds and laughter that grew back from ruin. Every step you take blooms behind you, not flowers, but memories, redeemed. The road bends, and there he is, waiting, not with arms crossed, not with a scroll in hand, but seated, calm, as if he's been here forever, just waiting for you to believe that you belonged. You don't run to him. You don't have to, because he stands and walks toward you, and there is no judgment in his face, only welcome, only completion. He doesn't ask what you saw. He already knows. He doesn't ask if you're ready. You already are. He doesn't ask you to kneel. You're already home. He steps beside you, and you walk together into a light that doesn't end. Not up, not down, not forward, just inward, deeper, closer. Not into distance, but into presence. Not into glory, but into love. You don't need explanations. You don't need to understand why he chose you. You only need to receive it. And so you do. You don't look back. Not because you're afraid, but because everything worth remembering is already with you. You remember the wood. You remember the blood. You remember your own voice, cracking under the weight of dying hope. Remember me, and you remember his. Steady, certain, final. Today, you will be with me. And you are. You always were. You just hadn't woken up yet. But now, you walk into forever. The doors open without sound. Not creaking, not swinging. They simply part like mist folding away from light. You step in, and it takes your breath, not with grandeur, but with reverence. A hall stretches out before you, so vast it bends at the horizon. The air is still, not heavy, just expectant, like everything inside has been waiting for you to arrive. There are no chandeliers, no marble floors, no choir lofts or jeweled altars. Only shelves. Endless rows of shelves, some carved from wood, others shaped from wind and flame and song. Some glow softly like dusk over water, others seem to shimmer in and out of view, as if they're not quite tethered to this realm. Each shelf bears books, scrolls, fragments, and each one pulses. They don't shine. They breathe, like lungs that never stopped, like memories that refuse to die. You walk slowly, reverently, as though your footsteps might bruise the silence, but the silence doesn't resist. It welcomes you, like a hush before sacred words are spoken. You look at the spines. No titles, no numbers, only names. Some you recognize. Names whispered in scripture or echoing in temple stone. names the world sang about in firelight and stained glass. But others, so many others, you do not know. And these are the ones that stop you. A woman who forgave her murderer with her last breath. A boy who gave up his food to a stranger during famine. A midwife who risked her life to hide unwanted infants from slaughter. A man who prayed for the soldier who broke his jaw. They never made it into history's scroll. No statues, no hymns. But here, they are remembered. Fully. Each name here weighs more than a kingdom. Because these are not stories of power. They are stories of surrender, of mercy in the quiet places, of love that bled in alleys and back rooms and jail cells. You step farther in, and a breeze moves through the hall, though you feel no source. It carries with it the scent of dust and parchment and wildflowers, and something else. Tears. Not the kind cried in grief. The kind cried when someone is finally seen. You notice now. None of these stories were written in ink. They were written in light. Soft at first, like candle flame brushed across linen. But as you draw nearer, they brighten. Not with heat, with truth. Because here, no story lies. No tale is twisted. No act of love is forgotten. Even the smallest kindness, the ones done without applause or witness, glow like galaxies. You pause before one shelf. It leans slightly, as if bowed by the weight of holiness. You reach out, and your hand trembles. Because this shelf bears no name on its edge, but you know, this one is yours. It's smaller than the others. Tucked in the corner, beneath a canopy of drifting dust motes. You might have walked past it in life. You might have dismissed it. But not now. You run your fingers along the edges, not to claim it, to thank it. Because this shelf holds your real story. Not the one told by guards or gossips. Not the one recited at your trial. This story holds the moment you wept at night and asked if there was more. The moment you stole the bread and split it with a hungrier child. The moment you almost ran and stayed. The moment you cursed God with your mouth and begged him with your eyes. And of course, the moment on that hill, that split second of audacity, when you looked over at the man in the middle and said, "Remember me." You didn't know you were writing a sentence into eternity. You didn't know it would be transcribed in light. But here it is. Here you are. Not the thief, not the criminal, not the failure. Just the soul who asked and was answered. You open the book, and the first thing you see is not a list of deeds, not your sins, not your redemption arc. You see a garden, one flower blooming in a patch of ash. Your mother's laugh, the hand of a child reaching for yours, the man from the middle cross turning toward you before you even spoke. Each page breathes. It doesn't narrate. It remembers. Because here in this library, memory is sacred. Not the memory of what the world did to you, but what you did despite it. This is the library of the redeemed. Not the perfect, not the praised, the remembered. You close the book gently. You do not weep. Because for the first time in eternity, you don't feel unwritten. You were not missed. You were not misplaced. You were not too late. You were just early, to a home that was still preparing your name. And now, it sings it. Not in echo, in harmony. You walk through the library with your name still glowing in the corner of your mind. Not loudly, not like a banner flung across the sky, but quietly, like a hand resting on your back. There's no urgency now. No more rooms to unlock. No more memories to examine. No more voices debating your worth. Just presence. Just breath. Just the strange, gentle weight of being known. You think that's it. that you've reached the end of the road. You've seen the mirror. You've heard your name sung in silence. You've walked through what was and been freed from what could have been. But then, the light shifts, and in the corner of the garden, the one that always stayed just out of sight, you see him. Again, not glorious, not glowing, just him, the man from the middle cross. Not as he was in agony, not nailed to anything, not crowned with mockery, not bleeding. He's just sitting, elbows resting on his knees, head tilted slightly, watching the wind ripple the light between trees that shouldn't exist. He looks exactly the same, and somehow nothing like before. There is no robe, no nail marks on display, no dramatics. He looks at ease, not because he's resting, but because you are. You walk toward him, not out of awe, not out of fear, but because your soul already knows the way. He looks up as you approach, not startled, not solemn. He smiles, not with lips, but with presence, and your chest opens just a little more. You sit beside him, not at his feet, not in the dust, just beside. And for a long moment, neither of you speak. Not because there's nothing to say, but because there's nothing that has to be said. Still, the silence isn't empty. It's full of everything that once fractured you, now held gently between you, as if this moment was always waiting for the pieces to settle into place. You glance sideways at him, the same face that bled beside you, the same hands that didn't flinch when you asked for something you didn't deserve. And then, you ask the question that's lived in the back of your soul like a splinter. Why did you stay beside me? He doesn't answer right away. He just lets the question echo. He lets it breathe. And finally he says, because I was never somewhere else. It's not poetry. It's not mystery. It's just truth. You think back to the road, to the years spent hiding behind theft and hunger and anger, to the faces that turned from you, to the nights you cursed at the stars, begging for silence to answer. He was there. You just didn't know how to see him. And now, with everything peeled away, you realize he wasn't the man who met you on the cross. He was the man who walked every shadowed path with you and waited until you finally turned. You whisper, I thought you came for the good ones. He laughs softly, not mocking, not dismissive, just amused, like someone watching a child finally understand something deep and ancient. He says, I came for the lost ones. You look at your hands. They're no longer scarred by shackles, but they still tremble, because now they hold something heavier than chains. Grace. He reaches out and takes your hand, not to shake it, not to inspect it, just to remind you that it's real, that you are real. And when he speaks again, it's softer than wind. I meant it, you know, when I said, today you will be with me. You nod, because you understand now. He didn't mean a palace. He didn't mean a prize. He meant presence. That wherever you walked next, he would walk too. Not ahead of you, not behind you, but beside. Just like he did on the worst day of your life. Just like he did when the world turned its back. Just like he did when you used your last breath to ask and found it was already answered. You lean back and close your eyes. Not because you're tired, because you're finally safe enough to rest. The birds don't sing, they hum. The garden doesn't grow, it waits. And beside you, the man from the middle cross simply remains. No more words, no more proving, just being. And you realize he never came to drag you somewhere better. He came to sit with you, so that even if nothing else changed, you wouldn't be alone. You open your eyes again, and he's still there. Always was. Always will be.